Jill, you and I talk all the time about how trucks have gotten so big. But the other thing that they've done is they've gotten really luxurious. And today we are comparing two luxury trucks. Both of these guys are really expensive trucks. In fact, what's that pile of paper you're holding?
We have two trucks in 4x4 crew cab configuration. We have the Ford F-150, and it is a platinum. It starts at $80,775. Of course, there's options on top of that. It takes it to $85,825. Clayton, you're over there with a Ram 1500 Longhorn, and it's the 10th anniversary of the Longhorn trim. Your truck starts at $73,915, but of course it's optioned as well, $92,600.
So these are both really expensive pickup trucks, and let's go through the things they have in common. So same body style, same drive orientation. They both have selectable 4 low, 2 high, they have all that. They both have 4 auto, which is a feature we both like, but under the hood, they're a little different. What is under the hood of the Ford?
We have a 3.5 liter V6 EcoBoost, which is Ford's name for its turbocharged engine. It makes 400 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque, and it's got a 10-speed automatic transmission.
Over here, we have a good old-fashioned 5.7 liter Hemi V8 that makes 395 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque. However, it's coupled to a novel and quite interesting mild hybrid system, which Mopar calls Hemi E-Torque. And it doesn't provide any extra power, but it helps fill that mid-range, basically before that engine cams up and it spins higher in the rev range, coming off a light. So it's torque assist. It affects the curve, not the peaks. Is there any more nerdery? What are we talking about here?
Well, one thing that I will mention is that you can get the Ford as a full hybrid, and that's one that can run on gasoline or electricity or a combination of both, whereas the Ram is the mild E-Torque. It's only an assist. So yes, one has a hybrid system, one has it available, but we don't have it here, but we still think it's a fair fight. And really, they're on the same level, but we're going to look at everything and see how these two measure up.
Shall we hop in the Ford first?
Why don't we hop in the Ford first?
Let's go in the Ford and split some hairs. The Ford F-150 Platinum.
Platinum.
How do you like it?
I like the fact it drives smaller than it is. It's a big truck. They both have huge turning circles. It's not easy to maneuver this thing around. I like the way it feels on the road. It's you get the feedback, but you also don't feel like you're in the Ram. I tend to feel like I'm wearing a fat suit. It's the wheel's big. I can't even reach my hand. When my hand's on the steering wheel, my fingers can't reach the turn signal.
It's a big truck and it feels big.
It feels big.
This thing has a lot of power, 400 horsepower, 500 pound-feet of torque from that EcoBoost V6.
And you really feel that, especially when we take off and it moves, there's no question. And the Ram is powerful too, but it seems to make its power a little later in the delivery. We have to admit, speed is not a big thing with these trucks. We're not drag racing here. But if you've got a trailer on the back and you got to move out of somebody's way on the highway, you want that burst of power. And
what do you think of this interior?
This interior, it's handsome. It's a nice redesign that Ford did. I like the way that the touch screen is set up. I like the functionality of the buttons. Like right now, if I want to turn on my heated seat, I'm driving, but there, it's done.
True, we actually timed it in the Ram, and your time from 0 to heated seat was 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem like a lot, but there's more than you want to spend futzing around for something that could be that simple. But I like that it also gives you 3 memory settings for the seats. The Ram gives you 2. So that's an extra driver that can sit comfortably here. And when you hit memory, it does everything. The wheel, the pedals, the mirrors. So many things move in this truck that it's worth having those memory settings, because you're going to be a while setting up this truck. Another
thing I like about this truck is Ford started this idea of the dip down on the front windows. It makes it look like a big semi. But what it really does is it gives you more visibility.
Visibility in this truck is quite good, and I would say better than the Ram just because of these dip down doors, like you said. And if I had to guess without taking a tape measure to it, these A-pillars feel like a little easier to see past. Things I don't like, the gauges are somewhat configurable. You can kind of change the auxiliary gauges around. I have it set to turbo boost and transmission temperature just because it's fun. But you know, you get like a little bit of an analog ring, but the big feature is just these large numbers. And I don't feel that these refreshing numbers give, as accurate, a speed as I would like. Because, if you're accelerating, it's just a blur of numbers. And if the engine is revving up, it's just a blur. So I would like an option to configure a more traditional dashboard. Out back, the Ford Step is a win, although we found it difficult to deploy.
It's still better than the Ram, which, unless you buy an auxiliary step, you've got nothing. And I'm always afraid of getting into a Ram because when you've got the tailgate down, you're trying to get up, you've got just this little wee area of the bumper to put your foot on, and I'm terrified that I'm going to slip off that and I'm going to take my knee out on the way down. Yeah, there is that little optional step to get you into the Ram, but like you said, it's only on one side. It's kind of hard to get that thing to kick out, especially after you imagine these trucks have had 5 or 10 years of salt. It's not going to want to do that. So, bad access is a win for the Ford, but neither of them as good as those Chevy inset little bumpers. They are fabulous. Ford made a big deal that you can flip up this console and fold down the gear shift, and hypothetically you have this flat area to use it on with a laptop. I think that leans more towards gimmick than feature. Are you a big fan of it? I suppose it has its use if you're on a job site. Again, it's an option, so if it's something you're not going to use, you don't have to pay for it. It's just one of those things that for some people it's going to be really nice to have. My big concern is the longevity on this going down. Right now when we're using it, it's a little bit jerky. Yeah, I mean, having electric servo connected to the drive of the vehicle is always a little concerning to me. But another feature that is optional that we do really like is Pro Power Onboard. Now on the hybrid, you can basically run an entire house with it. It's not as capable with this regular gas engine truck. However, it still is a really handy feature, and I really think that it's not going to be long for other pickup truck competitors are copying this feature, because you can plug in your power tools to your truck and then just idle it wherever you need to be, and you have power. And the other thing is that it doesn't take up any room in the bed. So if you're taking your generator, now you've lost that much space for your stuff. Yeah, it is way more practical than a generator, and it's not as noisy, and if you care, it doesn't pollute as much. Exactly. Your car has a catalytic converter. A generator usually does not. Exactly. One thing that Ford makes a fuss about is the Pro Trailer Backup Assist, and the idea behind that is once you've got your trailer in position, rather than turn the wheel and try and figure out which way it's got to go, you turn the Pro Trailer dial. So if you want it your trailer to the left, you turn it to the left. You want it to the right, you turn it to the right. Some people find it handy. The big thing about it is it's not going to make you into an expert tow person overnight, because you still have to know where to have your trailer situated before you start backing up. So think of it as an assist. Don't think of it as I'm going to be an expert once I start spinning this dial. I think we should hop into the Ram and see how it compares. So, unlike the Ford, we have a V8 up front, a good old-fashioned V8 with not very old-fashioned mild hybrid assist. The hybrid assist in the Ram doesn't add power to the top end. It fills power to the middle, the low end, when the engine isn't working as hard. So like, in the lower rev ranges, right when you leave a stop sign or when you need that extra little kick of torque. It's a $995 option. And with that, it also drops the fuel mileage considerably. According to Natural Resources Canada, if you have the e-torque, you are going to get a combined 12.5 liters to 100. If you don't have it, it's going to be 13.8.
So it's a pretty sizable difference. It's still not, on paper at least, going to match the fuel economy of the EcoBoost powered Ford F-150.
True, but it doesn't miss it by a lot, 0.5 of a liter. Now, depending upon how much you drive, that will add up.
It's true.
But it's not a huge difference. We're talking about two extremely well-engined trucks, for lack of a better term.
Neither of these lacks for power, but if you want that ultimate shove, the Ford has it.
The Ford has it, yes. We have two different transmissions here. The 5.7 Hemi is mated to an 8-speed automatic. You get a 10-speed in the F-150.
The 10-speed in the Fords and also the Chevys, joined and developed, is a great transmission. I don't think the TorqueFlite Auto is far behind it. I think this is one of the greater automatic transmissions.
I think we have a good combination in both of them. This is a really good ride, and we spoke about the air suspension. It has its good points, has its bad points. The good points is it smooths out the ride. You can raise it for off-road, you can lower it for better accessibility, including hooking up your trailer. The problem is the weight of the air suspension will affect the payload and towing capacity. So if those are important to you, then know what you're getting before you drive out.
That is an important point. But yes, partly because it's an air suspension on this truck and partly because it has that coil spring architecture, it just rides smoother than the F-150 does on leaf springs. We got to talk about this interior. It's got like fake hammer finished iron. It's got like rough barn board looking wood trim. The entire thing looks like I'm driving a saddle.
Yeah, and well, even the pockets on the back of the seats are saddlebags complete with buckles. I think it's a bit of overkill, but that's why they make more than one trim. Trucks are made to sell in Texas.
Yes.
Texas buys more trucks than I think Canada does alone. And anything that's going to work in Texas, that's what the automakers are going for. I mean, you're from Texas. Tell me, what do you think?
I see a lot of these when I go to visit my family down there.
There you go.
But I think the cowboy trim is kind of just a matter of personal taste, because on either of these vehicles you could opt for it or choose an equally nice trim that doesn't have it. So, a matter of personal preference. I kind of like it. I think it's fun.
They both have large consoles, but I like the one on the Ram here because it's configurable. You can slide everything back and put in, let's say, a purse or a pack or a laptop or something like that. You can put it forward and you've got covered storage. I really like it. Both of these trucks hold as much inside as they do outside.
True, especially people. There's so much people space in the front or the back of these trucks. By back, I mean the rear seats, not the...
Well, the bed is where we put the noisy passengers.
That's where the noisy children go.
I'm surprised that we let you ride up front, frankly. I really like the Ram box option. Now it's $1,295, but it also comes with a 115 volt outlet inside. So not quite as handy as the Ford's generator, but you can still run a lot of stuff off of it.
Now this one has a ton of options. It has power running boards. It has a laundry list of really nice things. One of those things is the two-way opening tailgate, which I actually came in use. I had the loaded engine and I was able to open them barn door style and move the engine crane right to the bumper, drop the engine down the bed. However, I would say that it's probably more complicated than I want a tailgate to be.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at how many years of ice and snow are you going to get before things start to get a little loose. Now, again, we don't own crystal balls. We are speculating here, and 10 years down the road, it may work perfectly. We don't know.
It's true. Well, what do you say we take these trucks in and come to a conclusion?
I think we should. Now, Clayton, you and I looked at everything. We even wrote it down. Well, I did. That's why you can read it. And we've got some of the things that we looked at when we compared these two vehicles.
Because they are so close, we felt we had to write down an itemized list of the different categories in which each one was the winner, or sometimes it was a draw between the two.
Absolutely.
Do you want to start with power?
Well, we'll start with power, starting with the Ram. 395 horsepower, 410 foot-pounds of torque. The F-150, 400 horsepower, 500 foot-pounds of torque. We have to give that to the Ford.
The numbers don't lie. Something that's hard to quantify in numbers is long-term ownership and reliability, and we don't like to put too much weight on this because we don't predict the future. However, it's pretty much a known fact down the road, a long-term, 10 years, 300,000 kilometers. Turbos are a maintenance issue. They just are. They spin at 200,000 RPM. There's going to have some problems. You're going to have fewer problems with an engine that doesn't have turbos. So if you're going to lease it, it doesn't really matter. But if you are buying this vehicle for the long term, you're owning this for more than 10 years, it's a real consideration, and we have to give that to the Ram.
As far as the ride goes, you and I both agreed. We really like the way that the Ram rides.
It's very smooth. Next is steering. And we thought that the Ford's steering's a bit more manageable, a bit more car-like, dare I say. The size of the physical steering wheel played a part in that, but also the F-150 just had a little bit better body control, whereas this is a bit of ocean motion if you turn too tightly.
Right, and I felt that the Ford F-150, again, these are really big trucks, I felt that the Ford F-150 drove smaller.
Which is what you want at this size level.
What I would love to see, I'd like to take the F-150's handling with the Ram's ride. Wouldn't that be a combination?
That would be the best of both worlds.
Now, fuel economy, we went by Natural Resources Canada's numbers, and according to that, the Ram is rated at 12.5 liters per 100 in combined driving. The F-150 is 12, so that's a minor difference, but we noticed a lot more actually out on the road and driving was that the F-150 gave us better mileage according to the computer in the dash.
That's true. In real-world driving, if the dashboard computers are to be trusted, we beat the estimate in the Ford, where we just about matched it in the Ram. Okay, so interior comfort. We agree it's the Ram. It's got really comfortable seats, and it's just a really comfortable place to be. Not that the Ford is any penance.
No, they're both comfortable, and on this one, we're giving that check mark
narrowly.
Very narrowly, but we're giving
it
to the Ram. Now, interior design, we're not talking about the package that's on it. We're talking about the way that everything is laid out. Even though they both have large center touch screens, we like the fact that it's horizontal in the Ford. The vertical, not so much in the Ram.
But now that brings us to interior functionality. It's a clear win for the Ford. You know, I like the Uconnect system. However, the problem is that if you want to change your heated seats, if you want to change your climate control, things that you do all the time in a car, sometimes you have to go into 2 or 3 menus to get that done. Whereas in the Ford, it's a simple button press. And for that reason, interior functionality goes to the Ford.
Absolutely. Cargo interior, we had to give that to the Ram, and 95% of that was based on the console.
Yeah, it's a really functional and well-designed center console layout. It's pretty much perfect.
And they both have a flat floor. Now that's something that Ram didn't have before. We got to give them credit for stealing it from Ford.
So for cargo exterior, we're talking about the functionality of the bed and all the things that go around making it a usable cargo space. So the victories, the Ram boxes, we like those. They're functional, they're handy, we like to use them. But the Ford has a step to help you get into that tall bed. The Ram does have air suspension, so you can lower it, and it also has an optional step, which we're not that big of a fan of. It's not the same as a tailgate step. I'm comfortable to call that one a wash.
We're going to call that one a tie.
For off-road, both of these trucks are 4-wheel drive. They both have optional 4-wheel drive package. That means they have selectable 4-low, and they have 4-auto. That's really the same. Both these trucks are equally capable off-road or in winter weather, depending on having the same tires.
And now we have to talk about value, and that was a really tough one because these are not optioned head-to-head. But we did look at some things that most people are going to consider as being very important on their vehicles. Bed liner. It's $600 to spray in a bed liner into the Ford. The Ram, it's included. A Class 4 hitch is included on the Ford, as well as a brake controller. On the Ram, you pay $495 for the hitch, you pay $395 for the controller. As far as the fuel tank goes, the Ford has a 136-liter tank, and I'm not looking forward to filling that. The Ram has an optional 127-liter tank, and you pay $495 for it. But when we put it all together, we all those options still didn't add up to that $6,860, but there were some other things we threw in, and basically, again, it's not an exact science, but we called it a tie on value.
But now we have to pick our winner. How many check marks do you have on your list for the Ford and how many for the Ram?
Well, you know, there's nothing that we hate more than a tie. I don't like wearing them myself.
They don't fit me well.
They don't fit me well. And we've never had a tie, you and I.
In several years of comparing cars, we have never had a tie, and we don't like doing it. However, this might be the first.
This might be a first. We looked at both of them. There was stuff we loved, there was stuff we hated, there was stuff we liked, there was stuff we could live with. And when you brought them all out in the open,
it's so close.
It's so close that we can't really call a winner.
So for the first time ever, the winner of this Driving.ca comparison is both. Both, actually.
And for Driving.ca, I'm Jill McIntosh.
For Driving.ca, I'm Clayton Seams, and for more pickup truck reviews and information, don't forget to follow us online on Driving.ca, where you will find a full written article about these two trucks, written by us.